our last episode of the season, and it is going to be a good one. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Edwards, and today I have Dr. Shawn Haywood back, which is really exciting. If you missed the last episode, Shawn is a liberated living expert, and Shawn and I work together a lot and have for quite a while, but today we're going to talk about gratitude.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be back.
Yeah, it's been really fun. The first episode was a lot of fun, and I'm sure this will be too.
Yes.
So gratitude has become a very popular thing lately. I've seen it a lot in social media. There's starting to be articles about it, things just in regular magazines and popular culture, as well as research. So I really wanted to bring it up because it's something that I've tried to incorporate in my life, but also I think it's been really helpful and it can make a difference in others.
Yes.
So the first thing is, what is gratitude? What's this all about?
Right. I mean, I think that at its core, gratitude is about a feeling, right? A heart space of appreciation, enjoyment. It could be giving, it can be receiving. But truly, it's about a really soft, nice heart space.
Yeah. Knowing what gratitude is and what it means, how can people start incorporating it into their life?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a great question. So years ago, before I've been a life coach for 18 years, and prior to that, I had a lot of depression and anxiety, and not that all went away 18 years ago. It's been a journey. But when I first became really dedicated to removing that, I had a great coach who encouraged me to start a gratitude journal. Yep. And she would ask me to write it in at the end of the day and visit it in the morning when I wake up. And that was such a profound practice for me, because when you're depressed, when you're down, when you're feeling, yucky in any way, or when you're just mad at the world or politics or whatever, it's so easy to be upset and blaming and irritated. And when you have some kind of strategy to specifically inject gratitude and appreciation into your life, well, it allows all kinds of things to happen in your body and in your brain and in your relationships. So having a gratitude journal is a great way to do that. And your gratitude jar, this is a great tactic for families to use.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about your gratitude
jar.
Sure.
So this is my gratitude jar. This is something that I keep in the house and in the kitchen, actually. And every day, we try to remember every day, but sometimes you don't. Brian, Andy, and I write about what we're grateful for. And then we put it in the jar. And if we're having a bad day, or sometimes just for fun, we look at the gratitude jar and we look at what we've written. And I'm just going to share a couple with you because they're really fun. So if we forget, Andy often says, "Mom, we didn't talk about what we were grateful for," which I think is really cool for kids. But let's see what this says. Oh, this is a pretty basic one, but this one says music. So Andy was grateful for music that day. And he doesn't write yet, so I write it and he signs it. Another one was the trees. So that was really good. Most of them are about food, so I'm actually surprised that those are the first two I pulled. And he said rain and lightning. We won't go through them all, but I was really looking for the food one. I think I buried them. Here it is. Pizza, honey, yogurt, and tomatoes. That was one of my favorites.
I like his style.
So anyway, those are some of Andy's, and obviously his are at the top. But I mean, I write things like grateful for sleep. That was the last one that I think I wrote.
Amen, sister.
Right? Or the lights being on in the house. Just
right.
Simple things that you wouldn't normally think about to be grateful for, or think about because we take them for granted.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that gratitude is such an interesting thing in terms of its ability to shift a home, right? Like your whole home environment, whether it's in one moment or the entire energy of your home. So Chris is my husband, our style throughout the day, like a communication style, is literally appreciation. And I would say, if I had to guess, we probably bounce back and forth I would say easily 100 appreciations a day.
It's amazing.
Whether it's thank you for dinner, thank you for coffee, isn't the sun beautiful? Look at our birds outside on the bird feeder, they're so great, right? You can literally frame your whole life around appreciation. And when you're practicing something intentional, like a gratitude and appreciation, it starts to replace things like irritation or blame or why didn't you make the bed this morning? You know what I mean?
Why did you leave the dishwasher open? Or
Right.
why did you get water all over the sink? Those are the ones that bother me.
Exactly. And it's so much about what you're looking for,
Right.
right? You can look for things to appreciate at home or at work or about the world or your office environment, or you can look for things to be irritated about, right? It's one practice or another.
Wow, I think that's actually really profound. And so we've talked about gratitude journal and gratitude jar, but just the idea of shifting that mindset and the thought process of being appreciative or grateful is huge.
Sure.
How do you go about, and I'm sure it took years, but how do you go about changing that in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say for me specifically, and for many of my clients, it's about having a specific tool to start with, something like a gratitude journal or a jar or whatever it is that speaks to someone. I have clients who decide to send one appreciative email every morning for 3 months.
Okay.
Or some kind of thank you card once a week that they're actually handwriting and putting a stamp on.
Oh, we do that for all of our clients at my PT practice. Everybody
Yeah.
that comes, every new client, we write a thank you note, and it's handwritten by the PT. And I think that's trying to do that in
Yes.
business is important too.
It is, and so overlooked, right?
Oh
A
my
simple
gosh.
thank you. Yeah, so in terms of having your mind, your heart, your relationships come from a place of gratitude as a daily practice, as a daily habit, but really as a value, right? Like that's a value
Absolutely.
you live out each day. It starts with having some tools,
Yeah.
right? Something that's very practical that starts to get your brain into the practice. And then it can shift into something more profound that colors your whole life.
Oh, I think that's great. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
There's a lot of research that's starting to come out as well around gratitude, around mindfulness, around these types of things, which is
Sure.
phenomenal because, 10 years ago, nobody spoke about this.
Sure.
So could you speak to a little bit of that, about the research that's coming out generally,
Sure.
and how that affects what we're finding about how it affects our body?
Right. It's a really beautiful body of research, and there are several kind of connected components. You can look them up, research them yourself individually or together, but gratitude, vulnerability, forgiveness, they really go hand in hand. And in terms of being able to express those as a lifestyle, as a practice that replaces things like blame and irritation or resentment or impatience or even perfectionism, it takes some amount of emotional maturity. And that's one thing that we're finding in research, that if you're not doing or have kind of other core work done in your heart or some amount of healing that has happened in your heart and in your mind, it's very difficult for the practices of gratitude to be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
So if there is some component of emotional maturity, which truly most people have,
Right.
then the sustainability results are difficult. So with gratitude, what we're finding in research in Harvard, at Emory, there's tons of great research. The Dalai Lama Center, you can find amazingly beautiful research around gratitude meditation. But the heart rate slows down, your muscle tone, is that the right word? Like your muscle tone starts to
Relax.
soften. Brain waves slow down, serotonin and dopamine, all of your neurotransmitters, they start to do fun things in the same way as, or similar ways as if you went for a jog or did something that was athletic or fitness oriented. So the impact on our body is really amazing. And so if you think about doing your gratitude journal in the morning, right? You're reading it, you have these sensations, your neurotransmitters are having just a great party, and you just start to feel great.
A great party.
Yeah.
I love that. Your neurotransmitters are having a great party.
Right? And you didn't even need to have a glass of wine.
Yes! Good, sorry.
That's okay. And so then you can figure, maybe 15, 20 minutes or an hour after that, your body stays in this state of flow and calm. And then as you move gratitude into forgiveness or vulnerability or connection with a friend or a partner, and it becomes a lifestyle, then you get to have this sensation, this sense of calm more and more and more and more, to where it can be, almost a constant state of being, which is where the meditation starts to fold into place, right? So meditation has these same benefits, as you well know, because you're an avid meditator.
That's right.
And then kind of between the two, it's like really life is truly becomes a calm Zen party.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and there's so much out there. There are a lot of books out there now you can read. There are a lot of articles, and I actually, I think it's the magazine. There's even a magazine called Mindfulness now.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I was reading it over my Zen vacation at the beach.
Nice.
But yeah, it's talked about a lot, and it's just nice to hear some strategies and why we want to implement this. I think in our lifestyle in the United States, we're running all the time.
Oh, ragged, yes.
And to have time to slow down and to start implementing things that help your brain and your body slow down can have such a great impact.
Right. And I think you make a great point there, taking the time to slow down, right? So our society comes from such a monumental place of more, better, faster, bigger, right? Everything is supersized. And it takes a very conscious effort and decision to choose things like gratitude, to take the 2 minutes a day, right? Even 2 minutes with my clients, there's sometimes a little bit of friction where they're like, I don't have 2 minutes. And it's like, oh my gosh. Yes, you do. You might need to trade out getting that extra latte at Starbucks and
Or Facebooking on your cell phone.
Facebooking. Right, but there's 2 minutes, there's 10 minutes, there's a full hour to, add different practices to your life. But the mental shift from I have to go, do, get, to, okay, I'm making a conscious choice to be more calm, to be more present with my family, to spend more time with my family, right? All of those are woven into gratitude and vulnerability and
So you've brought up forgiveness and vulnerability a couple times, and vulnerability is another buzzword I think that we're starting to hear about. Could we dive into that a little bit more?
Sure.
So what does vulnerability actually mean in life? I mean, we can talk about definitions all day long, but what is vulnerability?
Yeah, so the first thing that I would encourage if anyone is really curious about vulnerability is to read any of Brene Brown's books.
I love her.
Oh, we love her. We love our Brene. Yes, she's the foremost researcher on shame and vulnerability. And her books are fantastic.
And they're quick reads.
And they're quick reads. They are. Yeah,
So
they're quick reads.
I found that I know that part of what I like to do is let everybody know how you can incorporate it easily in your life. She's got some great audiobooks, fast reads. I found that I listen to The Power of Vulnerability in my car on the way to work, stuck in Atlanta traffic.
Right.
So I kept thinking I didn't have time, and that was a place where I found time to actually learn about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Vulnerability is amazing. So in terms of a practical application, it can be showing up as more authentic, right? So taking off the masks. Actually, if someone asks you how you are, you give them a direct answer, right? And not, I'm fine, everything's great.
Yes.
So there's more candor, there's more honesty, there's more rawness. 4 years ago, maybe a little more, closer to 5 years ago, my husband and I actually consciously dedicated 2 full years to vulnerability.
Wow.
To raw, unbridled, fearless, scare the crap out of you vulnerability. And it's been amazing. And talk about, appreciation and gratitude.
Yeah.
What came out of that was that we live truly in harmony. Most people, or maybe not most people, but many people, when I write things on Facebook about, or any social media about how we don't argue, we
People are like, you liar.
They really are. I get
I'm
plenty of
sure.
messages of people saying that's not possible. No marriage doesn't have arguments. But when you work through vulnerability as your primary value for 2 years, it eradicates any need for friction, right? And it's not that neither of us ever, that we don't get in bad moods. It's that we don't ever blame each other for anything that's going on in our mind or heart. Right, so it's a complete blame-free zone. And when you shift into vulnerability, part of that is taking responsibility for your own experience of life.
Yes.
Right? So how I respond, how I treat others, that's my experience. And vulnerability, I mean, it's hard to own your crap sometimes. And it's so tempting to be like, you said this thing or you did this thing, and now I'm mad at you and you're to blame, right? I mean, think about our society as a whole.
Oh my
We
gosh.
are in a space of unbelievable, monumental blame and projection, right? Like, if we're not in a blaming society, I don't know what it would be. And so that whole, like, reeling that in and taking ownership, being responsible for our own experience of life, that's incredibly vulnerable. 'Cause it's much easier to do this than it is to do this.
All right, and admitting that you've made a mistake. I mean, that is huge. I've been trying to practice that at work as well as at home. And I find that, I don't know how to be a boss. I've never been a boss before. This is new in the last 2 years. My company's 2 years old now, and I've only been doing it for 2 years. And I find myself saying all the time, guys, I'm really sorry. I made a mistake.
Right.
And
leadership, raw, vulnerable leadership is not easy.
It's not easy at all, especially for a recovering perfectionist like we talked about in our other episode. I mean, it's very hard. And just taking those steps to say, okay, I made a mistake, or I often have conversations that say, what could I do better? And I really mean, tell me what I can do better. What would feel better to us as a team? How can we work together? And those things are incredibly hard. Incredibly hard.
But they get easier and easier, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as you practice with any skill, whether it's a sport or in your mind and emotions, everything gets easier with practice.
It really does. Practice over and over again, and knowing that they may not respond the way you want them to, and that's okay.
Right? Absolutely.
So that's another thing to talk about. When you start to practice vulnerability and actually say, when someone says, how are you doing? And you say, you know what, I feel like crap today.
Right.
They don't know how to respond to you. In our society, nobody knows.
They're not prepared for authenticity.
Right? And so how do we prepare ourselves when we're ready to let go?
Sure.
And ready to show that face to the world? How do we deal with those responses?
Right. I love that question. And truly, it is much easier to say, go out and be vulnerable in the world than it is to practice. Because,
oh my gosh.
You don't want to put your hand in a snake pit, and I don't want people putting their hand in a snake pit. So my encouragement typically is to start where it's safest, right? So you dip your toe in the water, and then you dip all your toes, and then your foot. So vulnerability can be a lead-up practice, right? So obviously in our relationship, it's easy for you to be vulnerable with me because I'm safe and I'm not going to bite you. But if you're in a marriage or a relationship that has a lot of drama and bitiness and blame and resentment, being vulnerable might not be as easy as you would like it to be, right? And so I encourage people to start out small and grow from there. So share a little bit, share a feeling, share, one piece of the puzzle at a time, and expand out from there. And that way you grow your courage and you grow your ability to receive whatever is on the other end, right? When the stakes are lower.
Right. That's a great way to think about it, because I remember the first time I started saying, I feel like crap today, and people just would look at me like this.
Right. Okay.
And then they might say, okay, and walk away. And I would say, wow, that really went well. And it took me a minute to say, instead of feeling bad, I had to say to myself, it's okay.
Right.
You know, this is, you're being vulnerable, you're really putting yourself out there, you're being authentic, and hopefully people will get okay with that.
Right. I remember the same situation in my marriage when I was, had been more practiced at sharing and being vulnerable anyway, and I would share some really deep, hard things with Chris, and
I know what you're talking.
It's so sweet, and this didn't stay very long, but I would share something really vulnerable with him, and he would be like, just stone face and not know what to do with it. And I would just like take a breath and go, okay, self, that was courageous. And then, it didn't take long for him to start reciprocating, of course, but at first it was just deer in the headlights.
I've had that same issue with Brian, where he'll be like, and I'll say, okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. And he'll say, I don't know what to say right now.
Yeah.
And that's cool, because that's actually vulnerable
That's also
too.
vulnerable,
right?
That's right.
And for him to be able to say that and know that it was okay was pretty great. So
I love it.
good. And then what about forgiveness? Let's just touch on forgiveness a little bit. That could be a whole episode in itself, as could vulnerability. But
Sure.
just maybe touch on that, because we've mentioned it a few times in relationship to gratitude.
Okay. Well, I guess the easiest thing to say about the connection between forgiveness and gratitude is primarily that if you don't yet have an ability to forgive, right? There's some people who just keep arguments in their back pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I used to be a great scorecard keeper. Blush.
Yeah,
But in my old life, I was a great scorecard keeper. And so I would think I had gotten over something, and I would think I had forgiven, and an argument would happen. I'd pull out my mental scorecard and be like, well, what about these times when you hurt my feelings, right?
Yes.
So that's not real forgiveness. So people who are scorecard keepers have a lot of work to do in forgiveness. And when that work is needed, gratitude is additionally more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's just, this kind of mental space connection in your neurotransmitters that they want to flow together. They want to kind of, navigate together. So they really go hand in hand. So whether someone wants to practice forgiveness or gratitude, the other one will come along for the ride.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that really helped me a lot, and that was. I hope that it helps all of you guys too, to just think about how you can be more grateful in your day, and things that you can do in order to change your life in a positive way. So thank you so much for coming back,
You're
Shawn.
so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and if you guys, if you want to get in touch with Shawn, or you want to hear more about what she has to say, you can go to liberatemylife.com, and she has a lot of great information on her website. Or you can check out some of her blogs on my website, which is precisionpt.org. And she, every month, has something. And I said this in one of our other episodes, but she has all sorts of great information for you. So feel free to reach out to her about any of this. Okay?
Thank you.
And since this is our last episode of the season, I wanted to tell you that I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everybody that's taken the time to listen and watch these episodes. And as always, I want your feedback. I want to hear what you like, what you don't like, and what you want next season. Okay? So we've got a lot of places that we could go, and I really can't wait to continue the journey with you. So thanks. Have a great day.
I thought you.